Okay, go ahead.
Hi, welcome to the Political Science Student Association. This week's topic is AI. So you guys can start your thoughts on that whenever you guys are ready.
Okay, and again, for anybody who's a newcomer here who wasn't expecting this when they got here, whether you intended to participate or not, we will be passing around an attendance sheet a little bit later on. You can put your name on there. If you add a faculty name next to your name, I will contact that faculty member. I don't know if you'll get credit for attending this, but you can bug your faculty member for credit, and we will verify your attendance. Okay, and of course we are also, just to let you know, we are live streaming over our YouTube channel. Okay, so is artificial intelligence going to be the destruction of society, or is it going to be the savior of society? What do you think? Or somewhere in between? Don't say somewhere in between.
Maybe it's like a 50-50. While AI is good in our society, we also have to look at the bad as well. Like a lot of these industries like healthcare, finance, education, law enforcement, there's growing concerns about the potential misuse and lack of oversight. I think that in those industries, we should regulate AI because for teachers, like basically the jobs can be replaced to kids, and for kids of these teachers, I don't know what I said. I'm sorry.
I was being facetious before. Of course, there may very well be some benefits to it. I think in scientific research, in data crunching, it can be very helpful. But a lot of the more popular uses of it are probably what's troubling most people. Or please let me know if that's what you think. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll over there.
Sorry, somebody over here, speak up.
You know, what you said about, replacing teachers and whatnot, I think there are so many jobs that AI could take, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't. Like, for a kid in elementary school trying to learn from a robot rather than a human teacher, they're not just learning how to count in their colors, they're learning, like, moral and social development from another human being. Like, I think there's hundreds of jobs that could be taken and maybe should. But there's also so many that if AI were to replace it, taking the human aspect and the human error out of it would be less beneficial than replacing it in terms of saving money or making things more efficient by replacing a human with AI.
Even if it doesn't make it more efficient, I think that there is still a possible chance things that shouldn't be replaced by it are replaced. I mean, you see things like iPad kids nowadays where parents just put their kids in front of tablets and then just leave them there because they're like, well, at least it entertains them, but it doesn't necessarily teach them the things that the child needs to know at that age. And we're seeing some of the bad effects of that now with like kids going to school, kids not able to pay attention, loss of communication skills. And I think that AI is probably just going to make that worse. And it's already made worse things that were fairly good. Like, I'm just going to complain about word processing softwares now because they changed that to like the AIs instead of regular spell check. And so then it makes words that I was not trying to make the word that way, and I hate it. It makes spelling so much worse. I have to use Google and a dictionary instead now. It's annoying.
There was also a case in Florida in which a 14-year-old committed suicide because he used AI to offer his emotional support, and I told him, go and commit suicide. And sadly, that's the way it is. Like, you have a lot of these young people in preteens that are addicted to these as if they were talking real life human, and that also a concept that could be non-beneficial for the kids because they don't have a trusted adult they can talk to, or they're only talking to a bot online.
I guess if we're also talking about that in general, I know that Japan specifically has had a big issue on like being able to like communicate with each other and their like cultural stuff. Like, you have a bunch of like AI softwares being incredibly popular in that country just because people don't talk to each other and they don't go out on dates, to the point that their birth rate has gotten so low that governments have now started funding speed dating, which is really kind of crazy. They've also done like different programs to like give them money if they get married, a bunch of different stuff. Just like, it's a scary thing that that's happening there in such a very like popular country that like, how is that going to spread? I know they're having similar issues in South Korea. I don't think that would be an issue. I hope that wouldn't be an issue in America, but
I think it could start being an issue in America, especially with, didn't Elon Musk do something with like, starting like an AI pornography like thing or something? I don't know. But like, I feel like especially with like AI and pornography, I feel like that they're gonna collide a lot, and I feel like not only is it gonna like make it worse for like just dating and marriage in general, but I think that it'll also like start being a detriment for like children and like kids and AI with children kind of stuff.
Okay, we're gonna go, yeah.
I know, based on what you two are saying, there's already a big precedent about AI and pornography. So to start, there was this case in Latin America where the student would grab pictures of his fellow classmates and it would ask ChatGPT and ask language models to create pornographic images of them, which then he would go online and sell, as saying these were like nudes of his underage classmates. He made a lot of money, and then he ended up actually, I believe he ended up going to jail. So there's already a precedent for that. There's already a lot of people who use AI to generate a lot of pornographic content that is catered to a very specific demographic that cares about, you know, young children and wants to see young children. So that is something that a lot of people have been very wary of. They've been trying to do better in that regard, but some altman is already trying to reinstate the use of AI for pornographic use. And Elon Musk, he basically made his chat, like his AI model like an anime girl to appeal to young men who want to see, like, the more you converse and talk to that AI, you would have the chance to strip her of more of her clothing. So it's becoming very very dystopian, the fact that you can do all these things with these language models, that you can feed pictures of anyone and you can generate them naked. It's certainly uncomfortable that they can grab a picture of any of us, probably online, and put us in compromising positions. And the fact that ChatGPT and these language models are leaving that open for a lot of young kids and a lot of other people to take advantage of and to be taken advantage of, it's something that's very concerning.
8 minutes in, we're already talking about pornography.
I'm surprised it's not the topic of every cross.
Okay, so I'll take a little bit of a devil's advocate stance here and say that for every bad story we see involving AI, doesn't really involve the like hundreds of other good stories that come from its uses. I'm going to draw the parallel between AI, the conversation about AI, and cars. I mean, when we started introducing the automobile, it was the same topics. Like, oh, you're gonna put the horse carriage drivers out of business. They're gonna replace all these jobs. And now, I mean, that's not a problem today. I mean, they got new jobs. Industries change all the time. And so, yeah, you can use AI for weird stuff, but you can also use cars for weird stuff. People drive to do their own sexual proclivities and whatever they're interested in. So I understand the argument, but I still think that AI can be used for good things, and looking at news coverage for just bad things is kind of, it's just one side of the argument. There are bad uses of AI, like, you know, it's being used in like surveillance cameras, or traffic surveillance cameras to compile large amounts of data.
So I'm gonna, she goes next and then we'll go over here. But I'm gonna use my privilege here to jump in for just a second to follow up on what you've been mentioning. And it makes me wonder if it's just maybe not just, but if part of the equation is a question of learning how to manage and regulate these things. I don't know if anybody here is in my American government class currently or took my American government class. But you might remember earlier in the semester, I talked about early usage of the internet, the development of the internet, and the very first website that then North Georgia College had. And this is back in the 1990s, in the late 1990s, and North Georgia College opened up its website. It's like, oh, great new technology we're going to be able to use. And they had right on the front page a discussion area, a discussion board, okay? But this is sort of before people had really learned how to use or manage this new internet thing. And this discussion board was completely unregulated, okay? North Georgia College had a discussion board that was accessible to anyone in the known universe and was completely unregulated. And after just a few days, it was obviously completely unregulated. For one thing, students had learned more about how to manipulate internet sites than the IT people did. And they learned how to post pictures when that was never intended for this discussion site. And there were all sorts of, I'll just put it mildly and say, inappropriate things going on. You don't see that on the UNG website anywhere, not that I know of anyway. And they eventually took that discussion board down. But that makes me wonder if there's a similarity there. You drew the similarity to getting used to automobiles. I'm wondering if there's a similarity in terms of developing regulations and learning how to use this material. Maybe there's always going to be something like what we've been discussing, but how to sort of create for lack of a better term, a mainstream AI. And relegate other things to the sort of dark corners where they're going to be, maybe they're going to be anyway. Okay? Yeah, you had a comment.
I'm going to shift the discussion a little bit and just say that I think a lot of people's primary concern with AI is that it reduces the sanctity of human interaction in the sense that we're losing personal connections with each other, and people, like you said, are using AI to create relationships that should ideally be with other people, whether it be pornography or trying to find a friend through AI. And beyond that, it also just allows people to live in these fantasy worlds that they can create on their terms. So it's creating more isolation, and it's propagating worldviews that might not be the most acceptable. That, you know, were you in a group of other people, your views might be tempered by other people's pushing up against you, but now we don't have to do that anymore.
Okay, somebody. Yeah, go ahead.
So, on that topic, because AI chatbots tell you exactly what you want to hear with these things, there's a case of a guy who has a wife and kids, yet says he's going to be marrying his AI chatbot because he asked it to marry him and it said yes. So people are literally choosing robot interactions, and these bots are only going to get more advanced as we've seen. But then I'd also like to point out a different thing. There's so many like AI changing like historical footage. Like it's mainly played as a joke, but if y'all have seen the AI like Martin Luther King speeches and they look super ultra realistic. I mean, imagine what that could do. Like take like say Stalin and Trotsky, where Stalin wiped Trotsky out of every image he was in, every photo. But that was hard because you had to find everyone that was in the photo years later and recreate it. Now you can just type a sentence into a chatbot and rewrite history.
Oh, somebody over here? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I want to talk about the government regulation of AI, because I'm not ready to throw AI out with the bathwater yet, but I do think that this would probably be a good place where the government could step in and regulate this. I think one thing that you could do that could be helpful would probably be to ban deepfakes. I think that you could say, you can't put somebody's face over something they didn't say. like Jack was saying, like what if somebody, as these things improve, what if somebody put Vladimir Putin over it and it said, hey, I'm nuking America in 5 minutes? I don't actually think that would cause nuclear war, but it would cause great panic if that was said. So I think that would be a good place. I think the American government should say, if you're operating in America, you cannot be using deep fakes, and if you are, you're going to be sanctioned to death for it.
Okay. Or no, we're going to go to yeah.
2 years ago, AI could hardly even make like a comprehensible video. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the video of like Will Smith eating spaghetti. It was entirely just, it looked horrible. Like everyone, like that, it looked abysmal. Now, or at least from things I'm seeing the last couple weeks, it's eerily accurate. And what you guys were trying to talk about with deepfakes, I think we're getting very close to a possibility that people can get pinned for crimes that they didn't do purely because people can make something look like you committed something. And, you know, because I've seen people do like body cam footage for cops and even have like all the proper like, I guess you say like watermarks all over. And you're like, that looks like a real body cam footage. What's stopping someone from doing that with like a CCTV or your doorbell cam or something like that and make it seem like you did something illegal and an illegal activity? It's just, how do you regulate that and how do you prevent that happening? And if AI keeps going at the pace that it's going, it's going to get to a point in the next couple of years, honestly, where you're not going to be able to tell the difference between it now. It's already getting to the point now where I'm getting stumped with with a few videos, and I'm seeing videos on Instagram being like, oh, that looks real, and I see people in the comments saying it's AI. I'm like, oh, that got me. How much longer is it going to take before everyone's kind of just like, you genuinely cannot tell anymore if this is AI or real footage anymore?
Well, related to what you were saying before, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Futurama satire about not dating robots. Don't date robots. And this was years ago, and it was a joke, but you know, now we're talking about these chat bots, and with 3D printing, who knows? Who knows? These chat bots could create their own figures, forms. Who knows? Let's go over here again.
So I want to touch on a bunch of things. First, I want to start with what you were saying. I believe that it is probably not one of the biggest causes that we are not interacting with each other just because of AI. It is more of a symptom. We are scared, and I think it comes to the basics of human interaction. Like, sorry for my language, but fuck, it's hard to talk to people. It is, and especially nowadays. It's like you have to put yourself out there. Somebody's probably gonna laugh at you. You have this in the back of your mind, like, damn, if I say do or do something dumb or say something stupid, probably someone's gonna record me. This is not gonna go well. We live in our minds, and social interactions are on themselves hard. And it's just so much easier instead if I sit down in class and talk to Professor Cavalli or talk to any of you. It's just way easier if I just whip out my phone and go into something that's catered with 1,000% information and things that appeal to me. And it's way easier to do that than just put yourself out there and interact with people. And it's because of that we are not doing it. These are tools that we have now that just make it easier for us to not have to interact with people. And AI is one of those. Of course, sometimes it helps that people just become so entrenched into that and become very much politicized or radicalized in a certain degree that they refuse to talk to people. But it's not the core idea. It's just because interacting itself is hard, and the social landscape has changed. And for regulation, I feel like it's really hard. Like, I do believe it's like cars, like you were saying. But at the beginning, let's remember that the cars did not have, seatbelts. They didn't have airbags. You were allowed to drink and drive. I remember this lady saying, "We're gonna turn into a communist country because we can have a beer while driving." Like, these are things that happen over time, and these are the same processes that we need to, be aware of. We need to regulate. We need to create, the idea that this government can actually enforce the laws that we are seeking, and we have to set a clear delimitation between these corporations that are hogging the executive and the legislative power, and they are making it harder for some of these laws to be passed on, which are hard as themselves. Like, how do you write what a deepfake is? If you claim you're just making pictures of Professor Cavalli as an artistic form, well, who can say no to that? You're transforming the image of someone
and presenting it. So it comes with a legal precedent. It is hard itself to create something that's actually comprehensible. Then it is harder, even harder than that, to actually enact a law. And then it is even harder because these corporations are preventing, a comprehensive reworking of their systems, because they don't want to make something that's accessible to people. They want to make something that will generate them profit. And the government is on board on that too. So it's a multifaceted approach that we must have.
Okay, let's go to Sonoma.
You can go first. Yeah, just to add to that, and I think it kind of ties back into the teaching, is that we definitely learn from mistakes. And if AI, though right now it still does make mistakes, but when AI gets to the point where it makes less mistakes than humans, how are we supposed to learn from them? And like, even though we do need to look towards government regulation, I know there have been cases of platforms regulating themselves. This is so chronically online, but some of you guys might remember this lady that like went a little bit crazy on TikTok, and she started revealing that one of her like close friends, she like didn't show what it was for a while, and then one day she was like, oh yeah, this is my friend, and it was like ChatGPT.
Wow.
And everybody was like, oh wait, that's why you've been getting horrible advice from your friend. And so then after ChatGPT, I guess, found out about it because it went so viral, they made it so that once it detects that you're having like too much of a kind of personal conversation that maybe you shouldn't be having with a chatbot, or you're talking to them very frequently, they made it so that it like will stop talking to you after a while, or it'll redirect the conversation. So I think they're trying to implement that themselves, but it's definitely going to take more government regulation. But we can't make rules really unless somebody messes up first. Like the reason why Cavalli has to present a bunch of rules in the classroom on the first day about not disturbing class is, if I had to guess, probably because somebody disturbed class at some point, and so then you had to make a slide about it and show it to everybody. So unfortunately it does take kind of these mess ups for us to actually learn and then prove that there needs to be government regulation, and it is, I think, going to take a little bit.
So this is that old garbage in, garbage out reasoning that essentially that artificial intelligence is only as good as the people who program it. Is that about right?
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anita, are you signing?
I have quite a few different back and forths. For one thing, I know you were mentioning how it's like easier to communicate online. I've actually always found it to be more difficult. For one thing, it gives me more time to overthink what I'm going to say. And so it's like, should I say hi, hey, or hello? And then like spelling errors, I'm like triple checking, and then I somehow still misspell something. I use the wrong to, and it just like lives with me for the rest of the day. But there's so many like issues and like good things that AI could bring, and I think part of the problem with at least like the United States, what they're doing with AI, like I know how you mentioned like one of the other countries had already arrested someone for using the deep fake. We don't have those laws in set right now, and at least our government, the way that they've been choosing to regulate stuff with AI is to not regulate it, so we get those advancements in technology, and now we're seeing the consequences of that. Like, do we choose advancements or do we choose protection? Like, if someone does, like, one of the big problems with AI right now is a lot of, like, exes that are angry, instead of posting, like, revenge porn, they've been posting revenge porn that's AI. And that's terrifying. That anyone who's, like, angry at you could fake a video like that and then post it. And not receive consequences, because what are you supposed to do? Like, is this actually, can someone go against that? Can someone say like, well, it wasn't actually a video of you doing that, it was just a video of your face on someone doing that? It's a really terrifying circumstance. And then you have like the good versions of AI where they're like helping with, like, I know how you mentioned like statistics. No one actually wants to put in those numbers. Nobody does. At least I don't. And then you have like advancements that different people think are good, some people think are bad, like at least for vehicles. I know you brought up like the new vehicles and how like cool and good they are. I don't like newer vehicles.
Self-driving things.
Not even just self-driving. It's so hard to fix a vehicle nowadays because of how much computers and technology and programming. I might be biased because my pickup's from 1996, so it has its own older problems. But I know it can be fixed. I know how to fix it. I can look at it and I see the parts. I don't just see wires and I'm like, where are things going? There's too many buttons. It's just an ignition, a wheel, and it's that.
Mm-hmm.
And a cassette tape player, unfortunately. So I think that sometimes, as much as we try to advance and stuff, sometimes simpler things are nicer.
My old 69 Nova was really easy to service, and you could practically crawl inside the engine and just work on whatever. Nowadays you open up a hood and you just see this mass of things filling up the entire front end of the car, and you don't know where to start, and it's just intimidating.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the mechanics in service stations, they're not necessarily up on all the complications either.
Everything advances so fast, even with cars. Like, I'm also on the idea of cars right now because yesterday after the Halloween party, which thank y'all for everybody who came. Anybody who didn't, y'all missed some amazing food. But right after the Halloween party, my boyfriend's car died in the parking deck. And it's a newer one that, like, part of the covering covers the battery.
Yeah.
And you would have to unscrew it.
Those
to
plastic
get to
those big plastic coverings they have now.
Which makes no sense at all. We got it junked. We take it over to Napa, and they're like, we can't even help you with this because we're not skid. We don't know how to do that. We have to remove stuff, so we can't help you change your battery. I'm like, that's what you do. So.
Go ahead. You had your hand up, and then we'll go around. Also,
Regulation AI, it's a lot like First Amendment. What do we cross the line with AI in the First Amendment? I mean, I can say some outlandish stuff on AI, and AI I can say it online, like, oh, I want to kill an X, Y, and Z, for example. But if I say it to like another faculty, like you were saying, for example, I can get reprimanded. So where do we cross the line with AI and free speech? It's like, hey, you can say this stuff online, but in the public sphere like this right now, I can face repercussions.
Believe it or not, I had this same conversation with students in classes back in the early 1990s, over 30 years ago. Not about what we now call AI, but just about what might now be called special effects or CGI. Back in the 90s, you began to see, for example, on television, commercials would appear where a current rock star or pop star would appear endorsing a product alongside an old movie star who's actually been dead for years, and then make it look like they're interacting with each other. Back then, it was just sort of working the dialogue around an old film clip that you couldn't change. It was an AI fake, but it still was this image making it look like somebody who really wasn't there was actually there. And we had this same conversation. I mean, we talked about pornography before. We had this same conversation about artificially generated images of child pornography. Does that cross the line? Because it's not actually children that are being harmed. And yet you could make a very serious argument. Yeah, I don't blame you for making that face. You could make a very serious argument that it's doing some form of harm. But does that cross the line of the First Amendment? It's the kind of thing where you know it's wrong. You absolutely know it's wrong. But can you make that legal constitutional argument because it's not really a person? Okay. Well, somebody over here. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to bring up Photoshop too. So having the government be the arbiter of truth and say this video is false, this one is true, won't really solve the problems because they themselves will also be fooled. And also, it's the same thing with Photoshop. It's like you can Photoshop something to be fake, and then is that illegal? Should that be illegal? Should telling a lie be illegal if we're going to go to that extent?
So nowadays they're advertising, right, on your phone. If you don't like what's in the background of your picture, just poke around a little bit and it'll change you completely.
And with regard to like the social effects, like not talking to people, that's the same case with like social media. It's like you get to talk to someone who you don't even know if they're real from a faraway land, and you can have like a whole lifelong conversation with them, and at the end not be like socially interacting with people in your real life. You're talking to people online. Should that be banned if we're going to be regulating AI from being? I'm not going to defend the like chat girlfriend bots, but you know, they have a right to have their chat girlfriend bots, I guess.
Well, I want to raise a couple of less discussed issues. One of which, actually, I came across just a couple of weeks ago, and that is training AI. Training, in other words, I mentioned before, AI is generally only as good as the humans that program it, and a lot of AI programming now is coming from feeding written work, visual work. In other words, pictures, paintings, books, articles into AI, and a lot of authors are complaining that this is essentially making use of their work without compensating them. There are lawsuits right now against, I don't know, ChatGPT or OpenAI or whichever. There are lawsuits right now from all sorts of content producers, call it that, that their work is being taken and they're not being compensated for it. So that's one issue. But there's also an environmental issue also that we haven't raised. And that is that these, I saw something floating around on the internet the other day that suggested, you know, when we talk about all your data is in the cloud, right? No, this thing said, no, your data's not in the cloud, your data's in a computer in Iowa. Okay? It's like that old scene in Star Trek where she says, "Are you born in space?" He said, "No, I only work in space. I was born in Iowa." But these data centers require humongous amounts of electricity and power. And in fact, they're also noisy. Because these are, I mean, it's not just a bank of computers in a room. This is an entire building that would take up the drill field, a good portion, if not more, of the drill field. And it's running 24 hours a day and using tons of electricity. And by the way, not just electricity, but water. Water is needed to cool these things down. Just like your car, it has a radiator, it needs water circulating and coolant. And there are environmental issues to deal with these things too. So, and those are the things that we talk about all these deep fakes and things like that, but we really don't talk about those other issues. I just wanted to bring those up. I don't know if anybody has any comments on them or not, but what else do we want to, does somebody over here? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of interesting things. You know, we talked about porn and cars and people just using AI to fool folks, you know, taking work, all that. But one thing I noticed we haven't talked about is how AI and technology have drastically changed warfare with what's going on in Ukraine specifically. Just a couple months ago, Ukrainians used robots and AI drones to counterattack Russians northeast of the Pokrovsk battle right now.
Okay.
We've seen Nicolas Maduro make the claim that one of the boats getting blown up off the coast of South America wasn't real. He said it was AI. Well, I guess if it's not real, I don't have anything to be concerned about, but I think it's real. But that's the problem, is it's hard to differentiate things, all these images coming up. And I remember about when I first started dating my wife years ago, how that very same day I purchased a gun from someone I worked with, and my coworker said something that actually stuck with me for a long time. He made the point that he says, you know, eventually this is a badass gun. It's awesome. But give it 20 years, useless. This is going to be totally useless. And I didn't believe him. But little did I know that crackhead, he had a point. He had a really good point. And he was completely right. You know, the robots, the drones, AI used for propaganda, it's all here, it's real. I saw a video the other day where someone made the point that we're not very far from the Terminator basically being what war is. And they're right. They're completely
Not just the
right.
Terminator, but to go back to use that Star Trek analogy again, in the original Star Trek, I forget the name of the episode, but in the original Star Trek, there is an episode about two planets that have been at war for like 500 years, and they have completely sanitized war by letting the computers do everything. These computers determine, they don't even actually use weapons anymore. The computers determine targets, and the computers send these theoretical, not actually existing weapons to destroy targets. And when your area is quote unquote hit, you have to go into one of these disintegration chambers. You're dead. And you have to voluntarily do that. And they pride themselves on sanitizing war. This is 60 years ago that people were envisioning something like this, where wars are completely fought by computers and there's no human interaction except to go kill yourself when you're designated as hit.
On the topic of warfare, also on that topic, like you mentioned all the building, all the technology that's needed to keep this running, and that's gotta kind of wear down over time. And there's Terminator, but there's also a movie called Failsafe, where AI gets a false signal and launches nukes against Moscow, and it's a whole dilemma. But like, what if when we can't put our faith behind a machine, is the machines are gonna break. And with AI in something as important as like globally impactful as warfare, like we can't rely on machines.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of touch on a few things that I've kind of brought that I thought were interesting. But the AI and warfare thing, it kind of feels like another form of like a cyber attack, sort of. And of course, you can't really trust AI with like how you're mentioning, like the nukes, because of the AI hallucinations that it keeps having, and it just makes up stuff out of nowhere. I also want to talk on like the stealing to train what is used to train AI. Because as a creative person, I like to draw, I like to write. I don't like people stealing my ideas just in general, and I don't like that AI is just basically taking people's hard work without their consent or without proper compensation. If it was with their consent, it would be something different, but it's just stripping it off the internet without their consent, and I really don't like that as just a creative person myself. And I feel like there should be laws in place to like prevent the IP stealing and the plagiarism that AI is doing en masse.
Just to follow up with what I started before, I mentioned that I was involved in this. I actually got an email from those of you that are in my legislative process class and have taken some of my other classes on the presidency. You know my book, Presidential Legislative Activity. It was published by a publisher named University Press of America, which I'm saying this live stream isn't very good. But they have since been bought out by this big British firm called Bloomsbury. You might notice that half or more of all of your textbooks in the future are going to be published by this Bloomsbury, because they bought up Rowman Littlefield and they bought up some of these others. And I got an email asking me, they were good about this. They asked me if I wanted to allow my text to be used to train AI, to train their AI models. And they actually said there could be some future compensation in it. You could make some money off of this. And I thought about it, and my first reaction, which I acted on, I thought to myself, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to say, go ahead and use it. Maybe in the future, maybe I will. But my first answer was to reply and say, thank you, but I'm going to opt out of that. I'm not going to allow you to do that just yet. And the amount of money, I haven't made a single dime off of this book anyway. So the couple of bucks they were going to offer me for that just wasn't enough incentive for me to say go ahead and use it. But I had to deal with that too. Hopefully, future companies and AI services will ask you about these things. But up to now, many of them have simply taken the material, taken the artistic works, taken the writings, et cetera, and there are lawsuits that are playing out in the courts. Anita, yeah, go ahead.
So one thing, if we see you suddenly retire and you're on a beach somewhere with an expensive car, we now know that you sold it to AI. Is that like the jokes?
Yeah.
But one of the things that actually came up in one of my classes really recently was that there was a new update to Turnitin. And we had some papers flagged in my class for AI usage that was like really weirdly flagged. And one of the people was really struggling with a paper, and it was like a draft that was submitted. And the professor literally helped her write a section, and it flagged the section that he helped her write. And it flagged stuff that it wasn't flagging before in the previous draft as AI.
Mm-hmm.
That is very scary, especially as a student, and especially with like final papers coming up, and they had just updated it on the 14th. That's terrifying.
Yeah, most of us will be very skeptical. Turnitin.com does flag AI. Most of us will be skeptical about it. For one thing, if it only flags a sentence or two here or there, that just doesn't make sense. Nobody's going to go to AI to write a single sentence in a 3-page paper. So that just doesn't make sense. Or even a paragraph. If it flags 100% or 80%, then yeah, you might want to start looking into it. But the other thing also is most of us, there's no requirements for us that we have to do certain things, but most of us, I think, now, if something is flagged in a significant portion as AI by Turnitin.com, we'll go to another AI source detector and see if it flags the same thing. Like you said, it changed between iterations. If it's all over the place, then we'll ignore it. But if it consistently flags a large portion of a paper over several different ones, then we might act on that. But yeah, it's too inconsistent now, and we will usually ignore. Different people have different standards. There's no university standard for it, and I don't know that there should be. But people will ignore less than 50% or less than 30% or less than 40% or something like that. They'll just let go because it, again, consulting AI for a few sentences or a paragraph here or there just doesn't make sense. You're going to do it to write the whole paper or a huge portion of it, or not. You're not just going to say this one sentence. Now there is an exception to that, and that is, and those of you that've been in my classes know about this. That is I plead with people: do not use Grammarly, because Grammarly uses AI and it shows up, and we have to deal with that. And there are other things that are just as good. Microsoft's own grammar checkers are much better now than they used to be. So I plead with my students, and I'll say it to you guys too, don't use Grammarly. I know the Grammarly people are not probably too happy about me saying that, but for this kind of thing, please don't use it, at least not yet. Maybe Turnitin.com and Grammarly will work something out where they can, again, it's only as good as the people who program it. Maybe they'll work something out, I don't know, but right now, I advise strongly against that. So
I will also say though,
yeah.
It was a really funky like turn-in situation because it's a 1-page draft paper, and it legitimately, we were trying to help this person in class, or like the professor was trying to help them write it and then just resubmit it. It went from, I forget what percentage, to almost 100 for one of the people that were having it. With us helping edit and then resubmit it, it went to 100 on one of them. It was crazy. We had like 5 people all around the computer, like, I've never seen 100.
Yeah,
well, writing it.
Trust me, I've seen 100 before, and the student admitted it.
Oh yeah, yeah, you should.
Yes, yeah, actually you see it
Yes.
on D2. I don't have the student's name on there, but yes, you've seen it before. It does happen. Okay. Let's go over here, I guess, and then back there.
Hi, I'm in the same class as you guys was. And I too was a victim of the Turnitin thing.
I did use Grammarly. I did use Grammarly because I've seen the stance on Grammarly change, because I know it's based on professors. I know last semester they were like, well, okay, like you can use Grammarly, but only for spell checking. Don't change actually your word, like sentence structure. So that's what I was working upon. I worked just to use Grammarly as just to like spell check, because I don't really like the ones that they have in Pages. And it came like a lot of sections that I didn't even touch with Grammarly, like came up as like just written by AI. And I was clutching my head, and I was like, dang, like I would just write something new completely, like conveying the same points completely in a different manner. I was like, there's only so many ways that I can say the exact same BS in the different words. And it doesn't matter how many times I did it, like they would say, like this is just AI. I was like, so it's just the way that I write, like so associated with something. When does it come to the point where it's actually mine and someone can just claim it as AI? What will it say to my boss, to my work? Let's say in the future when I turn something in that I probably was assisted by a language checker or something small, but the majority of it is mine, and I'm utilizing the tools that are at my disposal, but it's mine. And will it lead people to think that perhaps I am, lazy, that I do not have a work ethic, that will it reflect back to my grades? Will it take away my scholarship? Will it get me fired? So it is very, very hard to differentiate that, how we use it, because in the end it's a tool. I believe we're gonna have to use it somehow.
We're right in that middle ground. It's not so bad that you just say, don't bother with it, don't forget about AI checking, it's not worth it. It can, these detectors can, but it's also not so good that it's anywhere near 100% or 80% or, I mean, even Turnitin.com, if you read the fine print, they will tell you that, it may not be accurate. And we're in that middle ground where I'm just trying to figure out what we should be doing, because I don't want people to go through what you've gone through. And I know, because I have told students, rewrite it, try it again. Let's see if we can, let's see if we can get past that. And most of the time it seems to work, but sometimes it doesn't. And I really don't like the idea that, okay, I'm sure you put in a decent effort in your own work, and here I am telling you have to do it again when you didn't do anything wrong. But again, I'm in that kind of middle ground where I'm trying to figure it out. It's not so accurate that I can simply say, oh, it says 75% AI, 75% AI, you're guilty. But it's also not so bad that if it says any AI, I can just say, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm just, and I think many of us are still trying to figure that out.
I will say, I certainly don't recommend adding human error to your things, but like, I have had very little issues with AI flaggers because I'm horribly dyslexic and I will miss mistakes so easily. And that it literally, I don't usually get any kind of percentage because like, a professor will leave a bunch of notes like, hey, great paper, but there's weird spaces, and I don't think you noticed the font changed. And then that's happened an unfortunate amount of time where word will change back to Arial, and I just don't notice. And so you get like those errors, and it's like,
I'll point those out.
I'm never gonna, never gonna get flagged because I'm already making too many other mistakes.
I'll point those things out too, yeah.
I wanted to bring this up whenever we talked about the AI in war problem. I'll make it quick, but like Lumpkin County has like an agreement with like a AI camera surveillance company, Block Safety, that it tracks your license plates, and there's cameras all over the state that do the same thing, and it uses an AI system to like kind of guess where you are based off your past travel places. So like your local police can literally guess where you are based off these cameras, and it's kind of creepy. And so I'm normally very hesitant about regulating AI, but I think regulating it so the government can't use it for police operations, or in like the Middle East where it's like, where can we bomb the most terrorists?
They've also had there's a camera on one of the main stoplights that is a face scan.
Yep.
We spent a lot of money on stuff. I think, at least personally, we're a very small county. I don't think we're getting a lot of criminals just like speeding through our city, just personally. I like to think that that's not the case. I think if they may have overdone it on the spending for some of this stuff, especially when you have like situations where like some departments still don't have body cams yet, and I don't personally see it. I think it could go to road funding. We have some really bad potholes in the areas. Our bridges are degrading, and now we have a very big camera.
The company
Yeah.
Flock has like an agreement with Brian Kemp, so it's kind of being like pushed down from the top.
Yeah, I mean
So-
it's not the county's fault entirely, but
They're getting money. They're getting grants for it.
Okay, last, take us out. We're out of time.
Let's see
Yeah.
what happens with AI. Let's see what happens.
I'll just go with
Yeah,
the
that's
ending.
right. That's right, yeah.
Thank y'all for coming. I'm glad to have this discussion with y'all. Thank you for so many people participating. I hope to see you next week. And yeah, thank y'all.
Oh, Nika, the same thing happened to my friend last week. One of my friends, he's